I spent all my life in the music industry, being a performer and loving every moment of it. This passion will never go away.
Celine is the best-selling French-language artist in music history. But recently, Celine has been uncharacteristically out of the spotlight, battling a terrifying disease. Mysterious symptoms affecting both her body and her...
She spent 17 years hiding a secret that almost destroyed her. While the world watched Céline Dion soar to unimaginable heights, behind those perfect performances was a woman slowly losing control of her own body. What started as mysterious muscle spasms became a living nightmare that nearly killed her. The woman worth over $550 million, according to Forbes, couldn't even hold a glass of water. The voice that made hearts around the world go on was trapped inside a body that wouldn't obey. But here's what'll shock you. She kept performing anyway, hiding injections, collapsing backstage, and taking dangerous amounts of medication just to survive each show. This isn't another celebrity sob story. This is the brutal truth about how fame's brightest star became prisoner to the rarest disease, and how one performance in Paris proved that some voices simply cannot be silenced. What you're about to discover will make you see every Céline Dion song in a completely different light. Picture this. Your first bed isn't a crib, it's a wooden drawer pulled from a cabinet. That was reality for Céline Marie Claudette Dion, born March 30th, 1968, in Charlemagne, Quebec. The youngest of 14 kids in a family where music filled the house, but food barely filled the table. By age 5, she wasn't playing with toys. She was singing at her brother's wedding because her voice was already their meal ticket. While other kids were learning multiplication, 12-year-old Celine was in a studio recording a demo with her mother and brother Michel. They sent one cassette to manager René Angelil, and when he heard it, he didn't just cry. He mortgaged his house to fund her career. That wasn't business. That was pure desperation meeting raw talent. René saw something in this skinny kid with crooked teeth that went beyond music. He saw his life's purpose. What nobody talks about is what that pressure did to her. While other teenagers were worrying about homework, Celine was memorizing English words she didn't understand, standing in freezing studios until her voice was perfect. At 14, she performed for 115 million viewers at the Yamaha World Popular Song Festival in Tokyo. The girl who started in a drawer was now conquering the world. But that hunger, that desperate need to prove she belonged, never left her. It would drive her for decades, straight into the most controversial relationship in music history. Here's where the story gets twisted. René Angelil wasn't just Céline's manager. He was 26 years older, and he'd been guiding her career since she was 12. For 7 years, he watched her transform from a fragile child into a stunning young woman, fighting his own growing feelings the entire time. When 19-year-old Celine wrote him a love letter confessing her feelings, it wasn't just romance. It was the collision of two souls who'd been circling each other in silence. Critics called it inappropriate, calculated, even creepy. But here's the truth nobody wanted to admit. Their bond was built on something deeper than age or power dynamics. Their 1994 wedding at Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal wasn't just a ceremony. It was Celine's middle finger to everyone who questioned their love. She married the man who'd risked everything for her voice, and she didn't care what anyone thought. Together, they built an empire that would generate hundreds of millions, but that empire would demand a price neither of them saw coming. René became her shield against a brutal industry, her translator when English felt impossible, her anchor when fame threatened to drown her. But in a few years, their roles would completely reverse, and Celine would be fighting to save the man who'd created her. 1997 didn't just change Celine's career. It redefined what global stardom looked like. My Heart Will Go On wasn't supposed to be a hit. She actually didn't want to record it at first, thinking it was too cheesy. But James Cameron insisted, and that decision created a monster. The song sold over 30 million copies worldwide, won an Academy Award and Grammy, and turned Celine from a successful singer into a cultural phenomenon. But success at that level comes with invisible chains. What the cameras captured were glittering gowns and standing ovations. What they missed were the panic attacks, the vocal injuries, the nights she collapsed from pure exhaustion. Her Las Vegas residency broke every record in entertainment history. Over 1,100 shows across multiple runs, generating more than $681 million in revenue. Critics said Vegas was where careers go to die, but Celine turned it into her kingdom. Over 4.5 million people witnessed her performances, but none of them knew they were watching a woman slowly dying inside. Because by 2005, something was wrong. Really wrong. And it would take 17 years to figure out what was killing her. What nobody knew was that Celine had been fighting for her life since 2005. She's been experiencing stiff person syndrome symptoms for 17 years. But back then, nobody knew what was happening. It started small. Her foot would cramp during rehearsals. Her back would seize up randomly. Doctors ran endless tests, but found nothing. The syndrome is characterized by muscle spasms and rigidity, severe stiffness and pain, with heightened sensitivity to noise, touch, and emotional distress. Imagine trying to hit a high note when any sound could trigger your entire body to lock up like steel. She started hiding it like a master spy. Designer gowns covered the bruises from falls. Makeup artists worked miracles on the exhaustion. She began taking dangerous amounts of Valium, not for anxiety, but just to keep her muscles loose enough to perform. "I could have died," she later revealed, and she wasn't being dramatic. The woman who'd once commanded stages with supernatural confidence was now terrified to walk downstairs, afraid her legs would lock mid-step. But Vegas demanded 200 shows a year. Fans expected perfection, and Celine delivered, even as her body screamed in agony with every note. The cruel irony? While she battled this mystery illness in secret, life was preparing its most devastating attack. When throat cancer struck Renee in 2013, Celine's choice was instant. She walked away from everything. Mid-residency, mid-contracts, mid-career. The woman who had never missed a show disappeared into hospital corridors and became a caregiver while secretly fighting her own deteriorating condition. For 3 years, she split her time between Renee's chemotherapy appointments and her own mysterious medical consultations. She was losing her husband and losing her body simultaneously, but the world only saw the first tragedy. Renee's death on January 14, 2016, didn't just end their love story. It obliterated Celine's sense of safety. 2 days later, her brother Daniel died of cancer. In 48 hours, she lost her protector and her childhood companion. The woman who'd sung about love conquering all now faced the world completely alone, with a body that was actively betraying her. But the hits weren't finished. In January 2020, her mother, Thérèse, passed away, the last person who remembered baby Celine sleeping in that drawer. 3 pillars of her life gone within 4 years, leaving her to raise 3 sons while battling an unnamed demon that was slowly paralyzing her. December 8, 2022, the day the world finally learned the truth. Stiff person syndrome, a rare autoimmune neurological disorder that causes muscle stiffness and painful spasms that come and go and can worsen over time. The disease affects only 1 to 2 people per million. There's no cure. The diagnosis answered 17 years of questions, but offered 0 hope. In her documentary, I Am Céline Dion, the world finally saw what fame had hidden for nearly 2 decades. Raw footage of a spasm that started in her foot and took over her entire body, triggering a complete whole-body spasm. People with SPS can be disabled, wheelchair-bound or bedridden, unable to work and care for themselves. The voice that once moved mountains was now trapped inside a body that could seize up without warning. Tour dates canceled. Vegas residency ended. The machine that had run for 40 years finally ground to a halt. But that wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the most incredible comeback in music history. July 26, 2024, the night miracles became real again. Standing on the first level of the Eiffel Tower during the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, Celine delivered her first live performance in over 4 years. Not just any performance, a flawless, spine-tingling rendition of Edith Piaf's Hymne à l'amour that left 300,000 spectators and billions of viewers worldwide in tears. "My voice will be rebuilt," she had promised the BBC months earlier, and that night in Paris, she delivered on that promise. The same woman who'd been writhing in uncontrollable spasms just months before stood 200 feet above the Seine River, her voice cutting through the night like a declaration of war against her own disease. The performance wasn't just a comeback, it was a resurrection. Social media exploded with reactions from fans who'd watched her documentary, who knew the pain behind every breath she took on that tower. She wasn't just singing, she was proving that even the rarest neurological disorder couldn't steal what made her immortal. Afterward, she wrote about being so full of joy, celebrating the athletes and their stories of sacrifice and determination. Words that perfectly described her own journey back to that moment. Today, Celine Dion's story isn't about the disease that tried to silence her. It's about the voice that refused to be silenced. Her $550 million fortune, according to Forbes, means nothing compared to the wealth of inspiration she's given millions of people fighting their own battles. She's not the same performer who dominated the 90s, and that's exactly what makes her more powerful now. Every note she sings carries the weight of survival. Every public appearance is proof that some voices are simply unstoppable. She now undergoes intensive physical therapy 5 days a week, rebuilding herself piece by piece. Her sons, René Charles, Nelson, and Eddie, have watched their mother transform from global icon to wounded warrior to triumphant survivor. In their eyes, she's not just Céline Dion the superstar, she's the woman who taught them that falling down means nothing as long as you get back up. The documentary, the Paris performance, the ongoing therapy, it's not about returning to who she was, it's about becoming who she's meant to be next. A woman who survived poverty, built an empire, lost everything that mattered, battled a disease that tried to erase her, and somehow emerged with more to say than ever. Celine Dion's real wealth isn't counted in dollars or albums sold. It's measured in the millions of people who see her struggle and find courage for their own battles. In the fans who watched that spasm in her documentary and realized that even legends break, and that breaking doesn't mean ending. Her hands may shake now, her voice may crack, but her impact remains unshakable. Because sometimes the most powerful performances happen when you have everything to lose and nothing left to hide. What's your Celine Dion moment? Which song helped you through your toughest times? Drop it in the comments. Let's celebrate the voice that taught us all how to sing through the storm. And if this story moved you, smash that subscribe button because legends like Celine prove that the most beautiful music comes from the deepest battles.